quick computation, such as a min or max function for two variables, or something that is really easy, like simply squaring something. Now, let me take you guys through an example. Let's say I have an int I equal to 70, and I have an int j equal to 80. But let's say I'm going to use scanf to ask the user for input, so I don't know what variables they will be putting in. But I want to know which one is smaller than the other one. So what I'm going to do up here is I'm going to make a macro called min. And I'm going to define it just like I did last time. Notice that I've always made the define names in capital letters. You don't need to do that, but that is often the protocol in C, so everyone knows what they are. And now I'm going to put parameters in this define function. And notice I don't have any types. I don't need any types for the macros I'm creating within the define variable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a ternary statement which figures out what the minimum is. So I'm going to put A, and then is A greater than B question mark. So what is this doing is this is a conditional operator, and it is asking is A greater than B? If it is, I want it to return B. If it's not, I want it to return A. So if A is greater than B, it's going to return B, meaning B is the minimum. And if it's not, it's going to return A, meaning A is the minimum. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to printf control D, and then I'm going to print off min of I comma j. I'm going to pass those in, and it should give me 70 when I run this function. And boom. So as you can see, there you go. It figured out that it was 70, and I didn't even have to write a function for that, which we'll be getting into later C tutorials, is there are other ways to write functions, more complicated functions. But as you can see, this is a simple macro. I can make this a maximum function very easily by flipping what it returns. So if A is greater than B, return A. If it's not, return B, meaning that B is greater than. So this will return the maximum, even though I've still called it minimum. But if I wanted to change that, I would call this max. I'd call this max, and I could still run it, even though now the name's just different. Let me show you a cool function called swap, and this is how you can easily swap two variables or integers with just using bit operations. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the inclusive OR and get the inclusive OR of A and B and set it equal to A. And then I'm going to do the same thing with B. I know this looks complicated, but trust me. Oops, I meant to make this B, and I'm going to do the same thing again. And I'm going to set this to B, and I'm going to have another semicolon. Now, there are semicolons in this swap statement because they have multiple lines. Because I need multiple lines, because multiple things are executing in this statement. It's multiple statements. Has multiple statements, so I need to have semicolons to show more than one line. But let me show you swap I comma j. So I'm going to run this in the code, and I'm going to print out I. So hopefully, if this all works well, I will actually print out 80 because I swapped it with j. And if I run this, lo and behold, it does print out 80. Now, this is a good example to do in your head because this is actually kind of something really cool that happens in bit manipulation. Is I'm able to swap two integers without a temporary variable or assigning it to anything. I can just use it with these bit operations. If you know how the inclusive OR works, I suggest you look at this yourself and print out an example with 7 or 6, for example, to make sure you know how this works, because it is really cool and you can often see it. Now, if you think this looks complicated because I'm executing 3 statements in one line using a semicolon, there is another way to define macros that need essentially multiple lines, and that is, let me show you right here. this statement right here. So as you can see, I have a swap method down here, which is what I just showed you, and I have a swap macro up here. I have a swap macro. This swap macro should be up here, but I have it up. I have it up here because I just wrote that later. And basically what this does is it does the same thing this does, but it makes it a little bit more readable to some people's opinions. I don't think it makes it that readable, but this is how you make something go over multiple lines, is you use a backslash, I call it. So but what I need to do is I need to contain it in a do while loop, as you can see here. And so what I do is I have a do, and then I have a backslash, just telling the compiler that this macro goes multiple lines. So do backslash. So go look at the next line. Same thing. A exclusive or set A exclusive or equal to A B, and next line, next line, next line, while false. So this assures that the swap function only runs once, because I'm saying while 0, which is equivalent to false. So this will always be false and only run one time. So I like this one statement better because you don't have to remember to use the backslashes or anything like that. But define macros in C can be pretty powerful and allow to make things a little bit easier if you know about the swap function, and you can make a maximum function, and you can do some pretty cool things, and you can just put them in your program really easily, and they'll take variables, or they can take characters, because characters can also be seen as variables. And that's what's really cool about C macros. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you remember this swap function. You may see it a lot in C programming. I'll see you guys later.